Let the record reflect, said Archon Talvin with the kind of smug cadence reserved for conquerors, that humanity poses no measurable threat to the Empire. Laughter rippled through the high conclave. Indeed, snorted Admiral Rax, brushing imaginary dust off his chrome-lined robes. They barely register above industrial-grade stone miners. Their ships? Obsolete. Their tech? Scavenged. Their colonies? Scattered. Weak. Another delegate leaned forward. And their military? 10. Systems, no fleet, Rax replied flatly. We estimate their largest dreadnought wouldn't scratch the shields on our patrol cruisers. And yet, spoke a quieter voice from the shadows, they never surrendered, never begged, never signed the accord. Silence twitched along the edges of the room. Talvin chuckled. Let them believe their silence is defiance. It changes nothing. Our long-range sensors sweep their entire sector every 3 cycles. If they had a fleet, we'd have seen it. But what if they didn't build a fleet? The voice came again, slightly louder. From the central intelligence seat, Talvin raised a brow. Meaning? The screen at the center of the chamber flickered, showing galactic surveillance data. All our recon arrays, array class R8 through R21, have one consistent anomaly. The room tensed, a gravitational distortion. The analyst continued, in unclaimed space. It's static, doesn't move, doesn't radiate. We always assumed it was a collapsed star or a planetary fusion remnant. So? Talvin scoffed. The analyst stared at the feed. So, we just got close-range scans from an unmanned probe. And what we thought was planetary debris isn't natural at all, Rax frowned. Explain. The screen sharpened. A shape emerged from the distortion. Massive. Impossibly large. Curved like a continent. Not a whole dot with details so unnatural, so deliberate, that the room fell breathless. That's not a moon, someone whispered. No. The analyst said, it's a ship. No engine heat, no radio, no movement, because it's dormant. Talvin stood up. That's impossible. It's real, the analyst said, voice cracking. And that's not the only one. Another ping dot, then another dot, then 3 more. The screen updated, across several hidden sectors long believed uninhabited, more of the same. Massive energy voids with identical distortion halos, each one shaped differently, some spherical, others spiked, one even shaped like a broken ringworld with inner plating. Each structure rivaled the size of small planets. The Empire's most advanced planetary defense stations were barely the size of 1/10 of one of these. How long have they been there? Talvin whispered. The analyst didn't answer. He just expanded the data logs. Each anomaly had been stable for at least 70 years. We've been sitting next to these, Rex muttered, now visibly sweating, and never saw them? They were shielded, the analyst replied, but not with cloaks. With gravitational mirroring. Gravitational what? The analyst turned toward them, shaking. They didn't hide the ships. They bent space around them. To sensors, they just looked like empty mass, like planets, like noise. Talvin took a step back. They were never primitive. No, the analyst said. They were building. The screen blinked again. A second feed activated. Live visual from the edge of the Eridanus rift just inside Old Terran space. A small Empire listening post had activated a camera drone to inspect one of the anomalies. The image came online. And for a brief, terrible moment, they saw it. The hull of a warship the size of a planet. Engines as wide as canyons. An emblem burned into the plating with no light, just absence. A human symbol, Earth's flag, worn, cracked old, but their dot as if it had waited for this moment. A Slow pulse flickered along the surface of the structure like it had taken a breath. "Is it alive?" Rax asked quietly. "No," the analyst whispered. "It's worse." A second ship appeared behind it, then a third. Not warped in, not jumped, just. Revealed. All around the galaxy, sensors began to fail. Cameras shut down. Gravity wells twisted, and one message, silent, passive, undetectable by known systems, reached every major command station in the Empire. Not a broadcast, a presence. The message contained no voice, just a sequence of images. Earth, bombed, ignored, mocked. And then blueprints. Of every insult, every time a human envoy was dismissed, every colony ransacked. Every Terran ship destroyed. It wasn't a threat. It was a memory, a ledger, and at the bottom of that ledger, you never saw us. That was your first mistake. Then the screen cut to black. Talvin was frozen. Rax looked sick. And the analyst, now seated, spoke just once more. "We didn't see them rise." He turned slowly, "But we'll see them wake up." And that was before Earth even responded. The inside of Arc Warden 1 didn't feel like a ship. It felt like a continent that had forgotten the sky existed. Commander Iden Trace walked beneath sky-high bulkheads, surrounded by carbon steel towers, miles of dark, motionless cannon silos, and zero echoes. Sound didn't travel well here, not because of design, but because the ship itself seemed to swallow it. Behind him, the floor lights shimmered with pulse blue veins, snaking between plate seams and giant armored conduits that hadn't activated in decades. He paused near core column Delta. The lights were pulsing faster now. "She's waking up," said Lieutenant Cora Vance, stepping up beside him. "No," Trace replied quietly. "She's listening." Cora frowned. "To what?" Trace tapped a nearby interface. No screen. Just touch-responsive steel. The answer flickered across in a single line of gray text. "Signal confirmed. Empire wide array scan detected. Observation." Protocol lifted. Cora's eyes widened. "They found us?" Trace's voice stayed level. "They think they found us." The interface shifted again. Fleet status. Sleep state complete. Command chain. Active. Total planet-class vessels, 19. Cora read. It again slower. 19? "I thought we built 7. Trace exhaled. "We publicized 7. They missed the other 12. Cora stepped away from the console, turning to look down the open corridor, if you could call a 10-kilometer hallway a corridor. The gravity here was lighter, simulated. You couldn't operate a planetary engine core with standard ship protocols. You needed environmental flexibility. You needed time. You needed silence. Why now? She asked. Why not 30 years ago when they glassed Vulcan Colony? Or when they captured the Earth envoy and dumped his body into a warp channel? Trace turned. Because back then, we were still finishing the teeth. He stepped forward and placed his hand on a triangular node beside the core wall. The metal warmed. A shape unfolded across the surface, thousands of tiny rotating triangles, micro-turrets, dormant, waiting. The Empire thought we were harmless, Trace continued. Even after we vanished from their charts, they thought we turned inward, gave up, went extinct. He smiled without humor. They never considered we were just digging in. Cora glanced around the chamber again. You could fit half their fleet inside this hangar. You could crush their fleet with the hangar. A chime echoed from the command lattice. Both officers turned toward it. The command Cora, 200-meter-tall crystalline pillar, had lit from within. Not violently. Not fast, but like a spine straightening after long sleep. A voice calm, clean, and unmistakably Terran whispered into the space. This is ARC Protocol initiation. Wake status, 87%. External observation confirmed. Response queue locked. Trey stepped closer. We're not responding yet, he said to the air. A pause. Then the voice answered. Acknowledged. Judgment delay requested. Approved. Message queued. Passive broadcast mode. Cora raised an eyebrow. What's the message? Trace didn't answer. The screen flickered again. Broadcast content. History of silence. Terran colonial logs. Terran casualties. Terran dismissals. Final line. We were quiet because we were building. Cora took a slow step back. That'll reach them? Oh, they'll hear it. Trace turned again, walking toward the edge of the observation bay. The wall opened not into space, but into deep curvature, showing only the interior of the ship's outer shell, wrapped with launch towers and kinetic orbital weapons the size of skyscrapers. They still don't know what they're seeing, he murmured. They think this is overcompensation. Panic building, fear tech. Cora stood beside him. And what is it really? Trace's jaw tensed. It's restraint. He pointed down, below them, far across the core platform. Thousands of smaller ships lay cradled in docking grooves, smaller only by comparison, each the size of an Empire warship. Each with no bridge, no crew pods. Just weapon and drive, Cora's voice caught. They're automated. Trace nodded. Each arc was designed to carry a continent's worth of deterrence. Each one built to disappear under the gravity cloak. Not to fight wars, he turned, but to end them before they start. Cora whispered, and if they... Fire first? Trace didn't blink. Then we let the arc speak. From deep in the hull, something massive shifted. A hum, like pressure dropping on a planetary scale. Then silence again. But they felt it, like the ship had opened an eye, and somewhere across the stars, the Empire had just blinked too late. Fleet strategist. Veller stared at the rotating wireframe of the Terran anomaly. Even stripped of color and... Mass, the outline alone filled half the screen. Zoom out again, he said. The AI obeyed. Still didn't fit the screen. Wider. The ship now floated inside a sphere of spatial markers, dwarfing everything the Empire had ever designed. Dwarfing every planetary station they had, even the ones rumored to defend entire sectors. The Terran object didn't match known warship. Configurations. That's what worried him most. It didn't look like a ship. It looked like a decision. Behind him, the war room filled with whisper arguments. Multiple species from across the Empire, generals, admirals, security ministers. None of them were laughing now. None of them even blinked. I want an update on the anomaly's current. Vector, Veller barked. The response came instantly. No movement. Still stationary. Is it powering up? Unknown. Have we detected transmissions? Only one. Broad spectrum, passive. Veller frowned. Let's hear it. The speakers clicked. A human voice, neutral, no distortion. No threats. Just a line repeated every 30 seconds. You ignored our silence. This is what we built instead. Then again. Same cadence. You ignored our silence. He slammed a claw against the mute. Why broadcast that? It's not a demand. It's not even a challenge. It's a memory, muttered someone behind him. He turned. Explain. The speaker, a quiet analyst from the Psychological Warfare Division, looked up from her pad. They're not warning us. They're recording us. Making sure that when this ends, history knows they gave us a chance to notice, and we didn't. Another. Silence fell. Veller turned back toward the primary screen. The arc hadn't moved, but every time he stared at it, he felt like it was closer. Any sign of heat or weapon charge? No, sir, but gravitational readings are warping in its vicinity. Explain. The technician looked pale. Not a field. Not an attack. Just Its presence is distorting the surrounding mass, like it's too big for space to accept. He walked closer to the display, knuckles grinding. They built this where? In our sectors? Yes, sir. How did we not see it? They hid it in static planetary signatures, gravity-cloaked construction zones. We scanned the systems but wrote them off as failed colonies. Empty shells. Veller stared at the sheer scale of the thing again. "Get me Lord Admiral Krylos," he snapped. A few seconds later, the old warlord's face appeared on screen, surrounded by gold plating and red light from his personal command center. "You're calling about the rock?" Krylos sneered. "It's not a rock," Veller snapped. "It's a warship, planet-sized, Terran-made." Krylos grunted. "Then we glass it before it stirs." "You don't understand," Veller hissed. "It is awake." Krylos laughed. Veller didn't. "The ships don't hum with heat. They don't spark with reactor signatures. They breathe. You're scared." "I'm observant." Krylos leaned forward. "You're soft. It's one oversized bluff. Fire a few rift torpedoes and they'll scatter. We tried." Krylos paused. "What?" "Recon frigate Kalvos fired 2 fusion-tipped missiles toward the anomaly 10 minutes ago, and they never arrived." The room froze. "They were erased," Veller continued. "Not destroyed. Not intercepted. Erased. Mid-flight." Krylos leaned back, silent for once. No flash. No debris. No evidence. Just a shift in the telemetry feed, like the weapons were written out of reality. "They're using high-dimensional defense?" "No," said Veller. "They're using something else." Krylos closed the feed. For once, he had no insults left. Veller turned back to his staff. "Begin Phase Red fallback protocols. Relocate civilians out of primary sectors. Prepare all diplomatic branches." Someone choked. "You're preparing to surrender?" "No," Veller said. "I'm preparing to survive what happens if we don't." Just then, a new alert flashed. "Sir, another anomaly." "Where?" "System Theta 9, outer mining belt. We detected a second object, slightly smaller, different shape." Veller's eyes widened. "How far from the first arc?" "2 sectors over." He didn't say it, but everyone else in the room understood. They were surrounded, across the galaxy. Sectors lit up. Old decommissioned systems, abandoned Terran colonies, disputed trade zones the Empire had brushed off from each one. A signal, low, pulsing, unignorable. We were quiet because we were building. By the time Veller looked at the new galaxy map, 10 more anomalies had appeared. Each one planet-sized, each one real, each one still dormant. He stood up, slowly. They weren't hiding ships, he said aloud. They were hiding reasons. A moment later, a second message came in, not broadcast, delivered directly to his command system from an unknown source. A human voice, chillingly calm. "The silence was your chance. Now comes the consequence." And still, not a single Terran. Weapon had fired. They called them Orcs. They called them ghost planets. But by the end, no one called them anything at all, because there was no language left in the Empire that could capture what the Terrans had built. Across 85 sectors, the anomalies had fully revealed themselves, not by attacking, not by transmitting. They simply turned, rotated in space just enough for their massive hulls to catch the light, like eyes. Old, cold eyes. Watching. Waiting. Across the Empire, panic wasn't spreading. It had already arrived. Civilian governments collapsed first. The noble houses of Kuroth and Velari dissolved in under 2 hours. Religious orders began interpreting the Terran message not as a threat, but as prophecy. On Empire Prime, Admiral Rax stood before the father. Central war chamber, clutching the edges of the map table like it might hold him upright. 19 arcs, fully exposed, each one at least the size of a planetary core. The last one, Arc 19, had appeared inside the Arlaxis Nebula, a region once declared empty. Now, it housed a ship large enough to cause gravity tides on neighboring moons, and it had moved just slightly. Do we have proof of aggression? Someone asked. Define aggression, Rax rasped. Are they doing anything? He looked up. They're awake. Isn't that enough? No one argued because for the first time in galactic history, the Empire was out of words. On one of the outer bridges of Arc Warden 1, Commander Trace stood inside the observation gallery. The atmosphere here was simulated, thin, cool. Not because it had to be, but because it felt right. Mira joined him. In silence. The sensors lit up again, she said quietly. I know, Trace replied. They're watching us now. All of them. He didn't answer. She stepped beside him, staring out through the glass below. The Ark's outer shell shifted, massive plates unfolding slowly, revealing ancient, dormant towers. The light inside them wasn't artificial. It came from the Ark's own kinetic core, a fusion of matter, compression, and controlled entropy. Terran engineers had named it the Thought, because once activated, it never stopped calculating, never stopped remembering. They're asking for terms, Mira said. Trace didn't move. Too late. We could still open talks, set conditions, offer alliance. We did, he said flatly, for 100 years. Mira said nothing. Then she asked the one question no one else had dared. Are we going to fire? Trace finally turned. We don't need to. She frowned. But if they prepare a counterattack, there is no counter, he said. She stared at him. That's what they're starting to understand. Behind them, the Ark's pulse thickened low and deep, like a heartbeat trying not to wake. Its body just yet. Trace looked up at the central HOLO-feed. Hundreds of signals pinged across the galaxy. Civilian ships abandoning sectors, Empire fleets disbanding, peace delegations scrambling to draft new treaties that wouldn't matter anymore. They all wanted mercy. But Earth had never promised vengeance. It had only promised consequence. And that was enough. Back on Empire Prime, Veller stood alone in the communications tower. Below him, hundreds of government officials argued, shouted, collapsed into panic. He didn't join them. He was looking at the final message, burned into the top layer of their defense. AI itself. No malware. No virus. Just code so precise it couldn't be undone. A simple phrase embedded in every display, every system, every emergency beacon. We were quiet because we were building. It appeared every time a console REBOOTED. It blinked across. Tactical charts. It echoed through medical logs. And then the second line followed. Now the sky remembers. The Empire's sensors couldn't block it. Their AIs couldn't erase it, because it wasn't a broadcast. It was a presence, a new constant like gravity or time. Back in Arc Warden 1, Mira whispered, they'll never attack us again. No, Trace said, but that's not why we built the Arcs. She looked at him. Then why? He stepped away from the window, voice calm. We built them so no one would forget us again. The chamber darkened. Across the Ark's hull. A final shift occurred. Not violent, not loud, just final. All 19 Arcs linked for the first time in public space. And in that moment, every ship in the galaxy, every station, drone, satellite, and scout received the same visual. A map of the stars and a blinking red circle. Earth. Still. Their. Still blue, still waiting, but no longer defenseless. No longer underestimated. Just known. The last message appeared seconds later. No signature. No code. Just a sentence etched across. the minds of an entire civilization. You never saw us coming. But you'll see us every time you look up. The Orcs didn't fire. They didn't need. 2. Because Earth had already won. Not with conquest, but with memory.